Weekend number 2 has come and gone for Blue Beetle, and it does not look to be very good. We've got a box office analysis predicting that the film is going to be, quote, another, quote, massive flop for Warner Brothers. This analyst also predicts it will lose around $100 million. We're specifically speaking about friend of the channel, OMB Reviews, your go-to box office analyst, and my go-to box office analyst here at Bounty Comics. I really like him and Valiant Renegades analysis. They are probably the best when it comes to box office analysis. But before we get to their analysis, let's look at the numbers for Blue Beetle. According to the numbers, Blue Beetle fell to the third highest grossing film in its second weekend behind Gran Turismo and Barbie. Not only did the film fall to third in its second weekend, but it also saw its box office grosses decline 51% compared to its first weekend. The film only brought in $12.2 million in its second weekend compared to $25 million in its opening weekend. So far, the film has only grossed $45.7 million domestically and another $35.5 million internationally, with Mexico and Brazil being the top international markets. The film has grossed $2.7 million in Mexico and $2.2 million in Brazil. Looking at these numbers, OMB Review states now Blue Beetle domestically 49% drop from week 1 to week 2. So now you're probably wondering, why is he saying 49 and I said 51? That's because when he's looking at the numbers, he's looking at the estimates early on Sunday, whereas I'm looking at usually the more accurate numbers. I guess I don't hate to say more accurate, but they have better solid numbers on Monday after the Sunday numbers have come in. Because obviously, if you're looking at it Sunday, you still have to count those numbers, so you don't have the full picture. Whereas Monday, you might have that. Even sometimes it takes till Tuesday to get that. It depends on how the studio reports. But by Monday, when I wrote this article, it was at 51%. So you saw an even lower take than what those estimates were on Sunday. So he goes on and says, that's not the worst drop-off in the world. We have seen catastrophic drops for most superhero movies. They tend to drop in the 60s. The fact that this has only dropped 49% is definitely a positive sign. He goes on to point this out. I'm not sure if I have it here. Yeah, he does. He says, that being said, because its opening was as small as it was, right in that 30 million range, obviously, it was 25 million. And then this film's only adding 12.7 million, again, 12.2. In its second weekend, its domestic is only at 46. I think that's right where it was, if I recall correctly. So it hasn't even crossed 50 million. And based on the numbers that we're seeing, we're not likely going to see this film crack $200 million worldwide. I think he's right on the money with that. But let's just say Blue Beetle is not doing well for Warner Brothers. It will likely end up being yet another massive flop for them. There's that quote there. He goes on and predicts the film will lose around $100 million. He says at $81.8 million globally after just 2 weeks of release, this film probably going to end up being a $100 million flop. After discussing what the film's production budget is, I guess there's a little bit of confusion as what it is. On the numbers, it says that it's a $120 million production budget. I guess there's an interview going around out there with the director, Angel Manuel Soto, saying the production budget was at $100 million. I've seen a report from Variety that says it was actually $125 million. But whatever it is, even if you look at that lower end and the production budget is $100 million, OMB Reviews says that it'll probably still lose around $80 million. He says even if it did only cost $100 million, it's still going to end up being an $80 million plus dollar flop. Just not good at all. Warner Brothers in dire straits there. The film appears that it will outperform Shazam, though. Fury of the Gods, and this is my analysis, not OMB Reviews. In the domestic market, the Zachary Levi-led film had a better start with a $30.1 million domestic opening weekend. You can see that here, looking at the daily comparison. But its second weekend saw a 69% decline to $9.3 million. So Blue Beetle actually beat Shazam! Fury of the Gods in its second weekend. I think it did $12.2 million. So nearly $3 million more than Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Not only did Blue Beetle beat out Shazam! Fury of the Gods in its second week, but the film beat Shazam 2 during the week leading up to the weekend. The only day Shazam 2 beat Blue Beetle was on the second Saturday. You can see here, bold is where Blue Beetle is beating Shazam. I mean, you see first Monday, first Tuesday, first Wednesday, first Thursday, second Friday, second Saturday is the only day that Shazam beat Blue Beetle. And then second Saturday, it beat Shazam again. And I think it's already, I mean, they're already pretty much even here, $45.7 million as of Sunday for Blue Beetle, and then $45.9 million for Shazam. That's what, like $200,000, probably less. So Blue Beetle is probably going to surpass Shazam! Fury of the Gods in the domestic market. However, what is interesting about this is that Shazam! Fury of the Gods had a larger international gross than domestic gross, while the opposite is currently true for Blue Beetle. So Shazam! Fury of the Gods ended with 57.6 million domestically, with 74.5 million internationally, for a global gross of 132.1 million. As noted above, Blue Beetle currently has a higher domestic gross than international. Thus, it might beat out Shazam 2 domestically, but it might not outperform it internationally and globally. Time will tell. OMB review specifically predicts Blue Beetle will gross between 116.8 million and 163.6 million. On the low end, that's actually below Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I don't think that that's going to be the case. We're already seeing numbers above Shazam! Fury of the Gods for the most part on the domestic level. So I do think it's probably going to perform higher than that 116.8 million. It's going to be carried by the domestic market. But again, it all depends on what that international market does. And it looks like the international market isn't coming out for Blue Beetle as it did for Shazam! Fury of the Gods. It's unclear as to why that is the case, possibly because it is a brand new IP. The character has, yes, it has been in the comics for a long time. You have Blue Beetle since the 80s. Obviously, it wasn't Jaime Reyes, but he's made appearances in Young Justice and stuff like that, been a primary character in a lot of that series. But again, it's not to the scale of Shazam, which had a previous theatrical release. And if you even want to go back, Captain Marvel was outselling Superman back in the day, one of the more popular characters in comics, although the star has kind of faded a little bit on Captain Marvel with all of the trademark and copyright disputes and all of that stuff. And then he has to go by Shazam now, and he can't go by Captain Marvel, etc. So I think it does all depend on how well Blue Beetle does in subsequent weekends, and if it can have a strong stay in September, it might actually have a better chance to do that, because we're seeing a lot of films get moved. Dune 2 was moved. A lot of Warner Brothers films have been moved. We'll see if other studios start making moves as well, meaning there's less competition. It couldn't have a long run in theaters. We'll see. Again, that 51% decline is a lot better than, say, a 60% or higher. But again, it did have that poor opening weekend, but it could do something like Elemental and leg out. But I think at the end of the day, OMB Reviews is right. It's still going to lose a ton of money because it started off so poorly. I just don't think it's going to be able to make enough to recoup from that low opening weekend. But let me know what you make of Blue Beetle's second weekend box office, and what do you make of this analysis, and where do you think Blue Beetle will end up with both its domestic run and its global run? Let me know in the comments below. If you like videos like this and you want to see more, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell for notifications.
Subscribe for more.